Well, not only am I hosting the show today, but I'll also be heading up Sports Talk. With me on panel is Joel Boyce and Tyler Sinclair talking about the NHL. The NHL's Board of Governors has made a decision on a plan for a new four-conference format. What do you think of the realignment, Joel?
Well, I definitely think this realignment plan is interesting. What's good about it is you got teams that will be playing against other teams outside of their conference. So teams like Anaheim and Montreal, they'll be able to play a home-to-home series. So there'll be a little bit more traveling, but it's good for the hockey to see teams in every single city.
For me, I think it was important that they kept the traditional rivalries. You'll still get Montreal and Toronto playing 6 times a year. You'll still get New York and Philadelphia. You'll still get Detroit and Chicago. And I know it's a radical idea. It's kind of come out of nowhere, but I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see where it goes going forward.
So Tyler, part of the realignment means they've gone back to the divisional style playoffs. What do you think of this new old format?
It's interesting. What they're going to do is the top 4 teams of each conference are going to play each other in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Then we're going to be left with 4 teams, and they still haven't decided yet how they're going to progress from there, whether they're going to reseed or not. But I think it's going to be pretty interesting. Now, you're always a little worried that they're messing with the system that's been pretty great. I think most sports fans would agree that the NHL playoffs every year are pretty amazing. And you get a little worried when they have a radical idea like this, but I think they know what they're doing, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
I completely agree with you, and I guess something else I would like to add. I guess the only issue I would say is you might have those tough conferences, and you may have a team that finishes 5th, and they might have a really good record. And then another poor conference, you might have a team like maybe 4th or 3rd even, with a poor record compared to the other one, and they will make the playoffs, but the other team won't, and that might be my only issue.
Canada has named their selection camp roster for this year's World Juniors team. Which selection are you most surprised about?
I guess one of my surprises this year is Freddie Hamilton and the Niagara Ice Dogs. He plays with his brother Dougie, and he's kind of played under a shadow his whole life, but the past couple of years he's done very good. This year he's done a good job putting up 39 points in 29 games. Last year he put up 83 points in 68 games, and he definitely gets his opportunity for Team Canada and potentially could put up some points.
For me, it's a bit of a homer pick. I'm a London guy, grew up a London Knights fan, and I'm happy for Scott Harrington. He's not the kind of defenseman that puts up a ton of points every year, but he does everything else pretty well. He's great defensively, he's really fast, and I think he's built for the international type of game in a World Junior type tournament. And I'm happy for that he is really going to get his chances here.
Now, on the opposite side of that, is there anything you're disappointed by?
For me, it's a minor disappointment. Every year there seems to be 1 or 2 hotshot 16 or 17-year-olds that make at least the selection camp roster, and you get to see them kind of have their first experience with Team Canada. This year there's 2 really good young players that didn't actually get picked for the camp. Sean Monahan for the Ottawa 67s and Nathan McKinnon, who grew up in the same town as Sidney Crosby, Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, is playing for the Halifax Mooseheads. Both of them are really great young stars, and I would have been happy to see them in camp.
I guess the only thing I would say is there's only a few players coming back this year that were actually on the team last year. So it's definitely going to be a new team with new players. But when you have like 8 eligible players playing in the NHL, like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Tyler Seguin, or Jeff Skinner, those players are up in the big leagues, and they're not going to have the chance to play for Team Canada. So I guess that's my only disappointment, is they're not going to be able to represent our country.
For the final question, let's move away from hockey and talk baseball. What major shakeups have happened in the MLB recently that have caught your attention?
Well, the Blue Jays have definitely handled one of their problems. Last year, they were one of the league worst for blown saves. So what do? They go out and pick out a closer. They make a trade with the Chicago White Sox and picked up Sergio Santos. This is great for Toronto because he put up like 30 saves and 36 opportunities last year. But what's good about it is his contract. He's at 8.25 in 3 years, and that's very affordable for the Blue Jays. Rather than going out and spending all that money on a player like Heath Bell, they make a trade for somebody under the radar. Not many people were expecting it, and now they've answered one of their issues.
For me, it's the team that picked up Heath Bell, the Miami Marlins. They changed their name to the Miami Marlins in the offseason. They have a brand new stadium, $515 million, and they really need to start putting fans in the seats. Now, not only did they get Heath Bell, they went out and signed Jose Reyes to a 6-year, $106 million contract. And the big rumor out there now is that they're going after Albert Pujols. They've offered him a 10-year, $200 million plus deal. Now, if they add those guys with Hanley Ramirez, who they already have, that all of a sudden becomes a pretty formidable roster.
That's all for Sports Talk today. The panel will be back next week.